It was a great day to go on an outing because Orbie found that if you fill a balloon with water and burst it, a lot of the water ends up on you. Katie discovered that building a castle with every single block in the house was great and a lot more fun than tidying it up. And they both discovered that if you empty the bubble bath container into the sink and let the water run, the bubbles aren't going to stay in the sink. Mom told them it was time to do something outside the house that didn't need any tidying up. Orbie wondered if they could go to the pond and feed the ducks. Mom thought that was just the right thing for them. She felt like taking pictures today and would bring her camera. A bag of old dried-out pieces of bread was in the bread box. Orbie grabbed it. It was packed full. There was so much bread that Mom divided the bread up into 2 bags so that Katie and Orbie could each have their own. Mom brought them sweaters in case it was cold at the pond. Orbie didn't like clothes much, most of all because he wasn't used to wearing them. So he put his sweater in his little backpack with the bread, and they were off. On the way, Katie showed Mom and Orbie some bright orange and red leaves on the trees. Mom told them it was a sign that autumn was coming. Orbie looked behind him to see if he could see autumn, but Mom explained to him that autumn is a season. It is the season before winter. In autumn, the trees lose all their leaves. They turn beautiful colors and fall to the ground. Orbie was very upset by this, and he actually picked up a leaf to give it back to the tree that had lost it. Mom smiled. The trees want to lose their leaves, she said. They have now stored up enough food to last them all winter. They drop their leaves and go to sleep. In the spring, they wake up again and grow brand new ones. Orbie wondered if the trees snored like Dad when he was sleeping, and Mom and Katie laughed and laughed. Katie said, "Orbie, sometimes you think of the funniest things." Orbie laughed too because sometimes he did. Katie collected 4 fall leaves. They were orange, red, yellow, and a wonderful pink. She held them up like a bouquet, and Mom snapped a picture of her. Then Orbie took them and put them on top of his head to look like wild, weird Orbie hair. And Mom took a picture of that, too. It was hard to hold the camera still because Orbie made Mom giggle. To get to the duck pond, they had to walk along a little path that led them through the woods. The path was covered with colorful leaves. It seemed that the chipmunks and the squirrels were busy chasing through the trees. Birds called from way up in the treetops. Lots of things seemed to be going on. Orbie wanted to run on the path and whoop and holler as he kicked up the leaves, but Mom said that this was a place of nature, and it was their job to be quiet. Orbie didn't mind because he knew he could do his whooping in the backyard when those leaves fell. Mom stood them on the path surrounded by beautiful leaves and trees and squirrels and things, and took another picture. When they got to the pond area, it was very quiet. Now, I have to tell you that usually there are too many ducks to count here. They quack and waddle around and busy themselves swimming and walking and flying, but now there was not even one duck in sight. Orbie made a "that's strange" sound, and Katie agreed. The 3 of them went and sat on the old bench. It was made by a man years ago so that people could come and watch and feed the ducks and not scare them. Orbie opened up his backpack and pulled out the bread bags. "Where have all the ducks in the pond gone?" Katie asked. Mom looked over at the pond. It clearly was empty. "I guess that they knew winter was on its way before I did. I think they've started to fly south." Orbie and Katie really didn't know what that meant, so Mom explained. "Ducks don't like cold weather very much, so when our winter starts to come and it gets colder, the ducks fly to the south because it's still nice and warm there. Then later on, when the south starts to get too warm for the ducks, they fly back to the north to enjoy our spring and summer. Ducks have 2 homes. All this flying back and forth is called migration." Katie asked how they knew the way. Mom said they didn't use maps. The strongest duck led them all to their next home by what he felt or remembered to be the right way. It was called instinct. I'm not really sure Katie and Orbie had time to understand because suddenly there was a terrible racket behind them. Orbie and Katie were so surprised they grabbed Mom's arms and pulled her close. It was so loud they really couldn't talk. At first, Mom wasn't too sure what it was either. "What in the world is that?" she said. Suddenly there was a swoosh and a flap, flap. Then one large, beautiful duck landed in front of them near the pond. Then there was another swoosh, and another duck landed. The ducks in the sky were coming in from further north and stopped to rest at the pond on their way south. I think the ducks were a little nervous to land because Mom and Katie and Orbie were there, but they sat very still. And soon, with all kinds of wings flapping and feathers falling, the ducks landed. Mom took another picture. Orbie and Katie couldn't open the bread bags fast enough because now they were in business. Big business. Some of the ducks watched them very carefully. And one duck came up pretty close. When Orbie threw the bread pieces to them, they fluttered away. But some of them saw the bread and hurried over to eat it. Katie took hers over to the edge of the pond. There were all kinds of ducks swimming at the pond, and she threw the bread to them. Some of these ducks skidded away on top of the water to get away from Katie. But that was only until they saw the yummy bread she was throwing. "Why are the ducks afraid of me, Mom? I never hurt them," she asked as she dug into her bread bag. Not all people are nice to animals, and it is smart for an animal to be afraid, just like children and strangers. Katie threw some more food and said, "Smart ducks." It wasn't long before a squirrel worked his way over to Orbie. He grabbed a piece of bread here and there before the ducks got it. Orbie made "the squirrel is hungry too" noise and threw him some more. When all the bread was gone, Katie and Orbie sat by the pond and watched. Mom stayed on the bench and watched Katie and Orbie watching the ducks. She told them they made a beautiful picture sitting there so quietly. She clicked her camera, and do you know that with the trees and the ducks and the squirrels and the pond and, well, everything around them, they really did